Hey everybody. So this week's video is going to be on reconciling the past, and that also means reconciling the truth. So I had another video all set up for today, a topic that I was going to talk about, and I started journaling this morning, and something that came up for me was the difference between dwelling and ruminating and going over the past in a way that we feel like victims, and why did this person do this and why did that person do that, and really looking at the past to uncover the truth. And we live in a culture that we don't want to look at the truth. So when we ask questions, when we feel uncomfortable with something that just doesn't feel right or didn't seem right, or something just feels off, we get shut down, right? So we don't want to talk about any of that stuff. And what many of us have been told is, I don't want to hear it. You need to leave the past in the past. We shouldn't discuss this. And I really disagree with that, because I think when we do that to people, we're dishonoring them. If somebody has a question, if somebody doesn't feel comfortable with something, if somebody doesn't feel that they've been treated right, I think it's fair to have the conversation. And many times the person who wasn't treated right also wasn't treating other people right. And it's just kind of reconciling it and having the conversation in a way that makes sense, and in a way we can come to some kind of agreement and a reconciliation. And I've learned through my experience too, sometimes addressing something with somebody who's not ready to talk about it, you'll get very aggressive, negative feedback and pushback, because you're pushing someone's buttons and it's threatening, and they're just like, no, we're not doing this. It's kind of being in a place of creating the space and having that conversation. So there's also that whole thing involved too. But my feeling is the reality of something is the reality. And we kind of want to make this time on earth to be this perfected little picture story, where everything's perfect, and, we have the perfect house and we have the perfect partner. And you see a lot of that on social media, right? Like people's family, their husband it will be their birthday. The best husband, the best human being that ever lived. And instead of just saying, I appreciate this person's in my life, it's like we don't have to project this perfection and kind of maybe unintentionally saying that he's better than everybody else's husband. We want to set up this perfection so we don't have to deal with our pain. It's a shield. It's kind of like living, behind this facade of, if I have all of these things and I tell everybody how happy I am, then I don't have to deal with my pain. And I don't know anybody who's on this planet who isn't dealing with a certain level of pain, both in the past and currently, because that's part of the human experience. Part of the human experience is challenging, it's messy, it can be ugly, it can be painful, it can be heartbreaking. That's part of it. And I think when we're able to look at that, when we're able to look at the ugly and say, this happened, and I want to have a conversation with this person about this, and maybe by getting clarification, it alleviates some of the pain because we have a better understanding. The truth is there. If we choose to look at it, if we choose to address it, if we choose to ignore it or put a Band-Aid on it, it's there. But it's also the same thing as when we get a splinter on the bottom of our foot. We can just ignore it and tell ourselves, hey, I don't want to sit here and scrape the bottom of my foot and irritate the bottom of my foot and feel the pain of this splinter coming out. So I'm going to pretend I don't have a splinter on the bottom of my foot. The truth is, when we take out the splinter initially and we have to work at taking out that splinter, it is painful. And the truth is, when we're pulling out that splinter, it hurts as much as it does going in. But once it's out, we can heal. And there's also this kind of beauty in the mess, if you will. When we can see things for what they are, we know what to do with it. When we're pretending they don't exist, we don't know what to do with it. So it's always sort of like an irritation. There's always that splinter on the bottom of our foot. And I think also there's a lesson in everything. So sometimes that lesson is ourselves. What could we have done better? What can we look out for? But it's also a lesson in what the human condition is. People will do things, generally people do bad things because they're in pain, because they don't feel good enough, because they feel they have to compete, because they feel that they have to show who they are, because they maybe on some level don't completely believe it themselves. And when we understand the human condition and how it can be painful and how it can be uncomfortable, and for some of us in our situations, it's more uncomfortable than it is for other people. When we understand all of that and we can look at that and we can look at our own pain, is when we can be there for each other and say, listen, I hear you. I know that you've been through this, and I've been through something similar, or I haven't been through that, but I want to help you get through that. As long as we keep playing the charade of nothing's really wrong, we're not allowed to talk about anything, we have to push things down, we have to pretend everything's okay, we're dishonoring ourselves. We're dishonoring the truth. We can't heal. And sometimes it makes us work against each other, because that's when we become competitive. That's when we become passive aggressive. That's when we become, I'm just not going to talk to you and you're going to have to figure out what it is. And we've all done that, myself included. And it's more about how can we come together and say, this is my reality, this is how we feel. And there's nothing to be dismissed about the fact that we all have different dispositions. So something that may hurt one person and cause a real fracture is not going to hurt somebody else. And that's okay too, because we're not made to be exactly the same. And I don't think that we need a lot of psychology books to teach us that. Just look around. Look at the people in your family. Look at your friends. Look at your colleagues. Look at your neighbors. Look at people that you meet randomly. And they have a different disposition. They have a different perspective on lots of things. It's opening up your mind. It's opening up your heart instead of I'm right, you're wrong. And in my opinion, that's a defense mechanism to keep ourselves, we don't want to fall apart. We don't want to admit that we don't know something, or that somebody is smarter than us, or that we in some way are not enough. Well, you know what? You are enough. And you're enough because you're here, and you're enough because you're alive. And there's a miracle in that. I'm coming up to a pretty big birthday soon, and I recognize the fact that I'm getting older, but I also am so grateful that I'm still here. And I say this to people all the time. Anything can happen in a lifetime. You can fall ill, you can be in an accident, weird things happen all the time. There's beauty in just being here and doing the best we can with what we've been given, and not making it harder for everybody else. And I think speaking the truth is important, because the truth is the truth no matter what we say and no matter what we do. The truth is the truth. And I'll end this video with, I think that every opportunity that life gives us, both positive and both negative, is either an opportunity for joy or it's an opportunity for growth. And we get to decide what to do with that. And I hope this in some way gives you compassion and gives you some kind of reconciliation with somebody you might be at odds with, and gives you the courage to speak up and the courage to say, you're not crazy. These things did happen. It's okay that you feel what you feel, and you don't need to pretend. You can just be you in the best version that you can be, and the truth just shines light on everything, including you and your magnificence. I hope this video helps you in some way. Please comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate you. And until next time, thanks so much. Bye-bye.